Hello, here we are again with Mookie Tenembaum. We are exploring, as you know, his disillusionist philosophy through these videos. We are trying to understand the misalgic theory that explains human behavior as aversion to suffering. And month after month, for a long while now, as many of you also know, we've been trying to apply some of these concepts to situations in everyday life, to matters as they transpire in the world, in the news around us. We are in April 2022, still very much amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, as we've been since the beginning of this exercise. Now the war in the Ukraine is added to the news and the background that surrounds us. And we've been speaking about both of those events in the past, but now we are going to try and focus within this context. We're going to try and focus on a group within the human population we haven't been paying much attention. We'll look at children, at babies, at the younglings of our species from the disillusionist point of view, and we'll see what happens.
Well, let me begin with a story. There is this Jewish old lady, grandmother, sitting in a park by her two toddlers, her grandchildren, and a gentleman comes by and he says, "Oh, very nice kids. How old are they? Which one? The lawyer or the architect?" So in this story is exactly what I want to take. When we have a baby, when you have a baby, you want to be able to take him to the place of your dreams, to educate him on the way you dream they should be, dream or think, yes, but it's a little bit more dreaming, I would say. Babies are really already pre-programmed. This is something disillusionism and of course Darwinism and biology will tell you. It's all like this. It's closed. The reason a baby doesn't talk is because its program has not unfolded yet, because he's not prepared for that. You know, babies, human babies, have a peculiarity that other animals don't have. They are born unprepared, unready. Maybe kangaroos happen the same thing. That's the reason they go into the. But a baby until he's quite old, 2 years old or 3 years old, cannot fend for himself or herself. And this is very important. So they are born totally helpless. They are, other animals, in a few minutes, they walk, they come, they do, they this. Here, it's just unfold. So there is an illusion of malleability, of the possibility of, like with clay, to conform those babies to what you think or you want or you dream, yes, to have. You and, of course, the couple. Then sometimes there is even an argument between the two, but that's what you prepare to do. In fact, many of the couples who get married, before they get married or as soon as they get married, they talk about babies and they think about what they kind of education they want to give their babies, what they expect from their babies. This is very common among couples. So of course, we are talking about from the 20th century on. Yes, before that, of course, you were born in a low-class family, which was 99% of the people, and things. There was nothing to be expected but to be a farmhand at the place. Sometimes a better farmhand, sometimes a worse farmhand, but that's it. There was no flexibility, there was no malleability, and there was no time for that either. People were working, and they had, if not, they would starve. So we are talking about really the result of the 20th century and the 21st century. So this malleability is very limited. This is what we spoke about in some videos about abilities versus disposition and willingness. To be clear, willingness and abilities. Abilities means good for running, tall, not tall, very good view, very good eyesight. Many things that has to do with the physical parts, which are already written in our DNA. Nobody expects his child to be taller than what the DNA says to be, or have maybe 3 legs or something like that. That's not going to happen. That is already done. And then you have willingness. That means that baby wants to be something. it has, without taking in account its abilities, it has a disposition to do something different. Sometimes the child is fantastic for running, but he wants to be a chess player, or an engineer, or an architect, or a lawyer, or a fast running lawyer. Yes, and we know that. And sometimes they're not good at this. They have no. Sometimes their IQ is very high, but they want to maybe to work as an employee in a carpet cleaning service. It doesn't matter. It's yeah. You know why I'm saying that? Just as a small point, I just read in the Washington Post of a guy who is a carpet cleaning. He works as a carpet cleaner, and he speaks 24 languages. So there you see willingness and ability.
And ability.
And this is exactly the point what we're talking about. So what do you think about all this, Florencia?
I was going to ask you, I follow what you say. I understand how we deceive ourselves in terms of seeing an open program where the program is usually very much closed. But as we usually see freedom, and we usually see open-endedness where there is no such thing. But my question was going to be about, why would we do this? Why the deception? Why has it been so successful? And I think this will lead us back to many questions we've asked in the past about how illusions in general work. Because if they are still working, there must pose some sort of advantage for us to remain in place. If not, we would have torn them down. Because what you are saying to me is quite obvious, is quite undeniable. So why does it stand, this illusion of the malleability, as you said, of the child? And I'm sure many others that surround it.
Well, first, you're right. The illusions are there to help us sleepwalk. Yes, it has several advantages to have illusions. One of them is to be able to sleepwalk, because if you think there is a country which will take care of certain issues like security and safety and so forth, then you forget about it and you can continue to sleepwalk. If you have to take care of looking at every corner, somebody is going to kill you, you cannot sleepwalk. You cannot sleepwalk, you suffer, and then it's a bad idea. The whole idea is running away or averting sufferance. How do we avert suffering? Mostly by sleepwalking. How do we sleepwalk? By having the sidewalk has to be very straight. That means no obstacles in the way. Illusions do that, but illusion has also another interesting feature, and that is against our terror of death, because we dread dying. Yes, because we dread dying. Illusions, what help us is giving us a sense of immortality. It could be in religion, that means your soul is immortal. Yes, it could be in the state, that your work is part of the Kazakhstan endeavors, not Russian, I mean Kazakhstan or French or Chinese or whatever. Yes, that is, and then you have the illusion. The third one is the family. Why the family? Because your children are really continuing your genes and continuing your education, and you're continuing your ideas, and that possibility that allows you to live longer in your mind. Of course, you don't live longer. You die and nothing happens. That's it. Yes, you don't see your children. When you die, it's finished. It's over. Yes, there is nothing beyond that. But for the terror of death, if you can convince yourself that you are going to be that this is going to continue, to many people it helps. To disillusionists, it doesn't, of course, because we don't need illusions for that. The facts are the facts, Florencio. So what the children, the reason we invest so much in children, and there is an evolutionary advantage of investing in children. This is evolution allows us to invest more in children. How do we invest in children? If we believe that we can change them, and we can mostly, yes. And if we believe that they continue your existence somehow, yes, which they don't. So those two illusions allow you to sleepwalk while raising your child.
You made me remember a conversation we had in a previous video about dogs, speaking about pets. And when we spoke about dogs, we went over this idea that dogs are somehow also deceiving us, because we see in them a tenderness, a loyalty, a bunch of feelings that of course are not there. It's just the program, the instinct in the animal that has evolved to adapt, to conform to our gaze. And so we will take care of dogs, and we will feed and pet dogs who are cuter in our eyes. I guess our younglings have a similar disposition and a similar ability when it comes to force us, so to speak, to take care of them and to raise them.
Well, that's not forcing. You feel pleasure to doing it because they're cute. The word cute is done exactly for that. That and a dog, same thing, yes, or a cat. It is the same. I'm not saying your son is the same as your cat, but for some people it's about the same, because both of them, with their cuteness, elicit from you all kind of, once again, all kind of care that helps perpetuate the species, makes your species survive more. Those children who are be taking care will be probably, because of, remember, this is really up to the 19th century. It was very relevant. Yes, you had the 12 children. Some of them will die at birth, and some of them you will take care of them. Some others you don't, and you will want the children because you need them as hands to help you farm in farming, which was about everybody else in the 19th century. We're not talking about the 5 guys who live in 3 cities. We're talking about that. So that probably is an advantage, and it's still today. But you see, babies confuses us because we think we can change them, and we can't. They are almost always written. We think that, but the interesting thing is that confusion is aided by our addiction to sleepwalking, or really averting suffering. So how do we sleepwalk? Is because we have we imitate the way our parents raised us, and we do that with the children. So when we do imitation, we don't need to think. We don't need to be awake. It's enough being sleepwalk. So now you think, when your child is 15, well, I don't know 15, but 20, yes, when he or she is 20, I said, that is look how it works. Yes, and what you really see is that the result of DNA unfolding.
You mentioned before the illusion of families, and now parents come into the picture as we imitate them in our own parenting. I ask you about this, I guess, peculiarity, which is that we are not seeking the survival of the species as a whole, but also the survival of this line within the species, within it's maybe this very surname, this very lineage, this very legacy within the whole species. I guess this is part of the illusionary framework.
Absolutely. To have your last name continue, to have your ideals continuing, again, it's all immortality. And I have to say that this video was inspired, or was, I don't know, inspiration, but was I thought about it when I read a terrible piece of news a few days ago about the Ukraine. In the Ukraine, in the cities that are being heavily bombarded, many children have ended up being orphans because the parents were killed, and they were 5 years old or 6 years old, and they arrived to the west of Ukraine or even to the border, and they don't know nothing about themselves. They only know their first name. Nobody knows who are their parents. They don't know from which city they come. So what parents have resorted to do is to write on their bodies with ink that cannot be erased. I don't know how it's called. On their bodies, the whole story of their family, what are their children, what's the name of their parents, anything they can do, and it's all written on their bodies. So if the parents die, those children have a continuity. They will have a history. But more important, or at least as important, the parents will be surviving there. That immortality, that terrible thing that's happening, shows the need for immortality and the need for the line to be continued. Yes, being part of a line, being part of that illusion is so necessary to be able to sleepwalk. And believe me, when they were writing that, they were not sleepwalking.
It's quite an impressive illustration of the point. We are done. We are past our usual time, but I'm sure this and other illusions will come back in future analysis and future videos. Thank you very much.
Hopefully.
See you next time.
See you next time.
If you enjoyed the video, please like it, comment and subscribe.